Okay, well, first of all, thank you for your patience. I woke up this morning with a little bit of a scratchy throat, and I figured that I'd be on err on the side of caution, and we'll take a little test a little bit later on. But I want to make sure I at least had a chance to chat with you. First of all, I'm very excited about talking with you. The topic that I am very excited about talking about is education. I'll give you a little bit of background to give you some idea of why I have such a passion. I happen to be one of those guys who never ever thought I'd get into politics. I've been an entrepreneur. Of course, as you guys know, I played NFL many, many years ago. And I always thought I would make my impact by working with youth, helping particularly at-risk kids to get a chance to get their second chance. And that's what I was doing when I decided about 2 years ago that possibly changing policies in DC might be a very important next step. So, excuse me, guys, I'm gonna every now and then just drink a little bit so I can make sure I'm talking to you. So, as a little backdrop on why that's so important, I grew up in the Deep South in the 60s, in the days of segregation, KKK, Jim Crow, but a remarkably successful community. And I like to say that as emphatically as I can, because what a lot of Americans don't understand, because our history is not being taught, is that we have all, as a country, as a nation, no matter where we are, the culture, even though we're not assimilating, we've all as cultures felt the same way about success, about respect. We all, at the time I was growing up, we all were very proud to be Americans. Our dads had just come back from World War II. We were not assimilating, as I mentioned, but we felt that in order to be respected, you did what Americans do. You found a way to win. So meritocracy was everything, whether that be in the classroom, in sports, and in the way that we held our communities up. And we believed in that in a big, big way. We believed hard and very heartily in command and respect by showing our courage, by showing our tenacity, our intelligence. And we did a really good job of that from the 40s to the 60s. Here's some things that many Americans don't know because our history is not being taught. And I want to say this, the history is not being taught on purpose. It was Karl Marx back in the 1800s said the first battleground is rewriting of history. If we're not taught our history, we're not taught where we came from and how far we've come, it's very easy to lose our anchor. It's very easy to not appreciate how far we've come and the shoulders of whom we stood upon. It's very easy not to understand what our potential is. So history is important. Here's a little bit of history that you guys have not heard about, and it's sad, it's unfortunate. But in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the Black community, because we believed in some tenets, the tenets were faith, family, the free market, and education, and we were all in. Because of those tenets, the Black community in the 40s, 50s, and 60s led our country in the growth of the middle class. Men matriculating from college, men committed to marriage, over 70%, up until 1970, more Black women had a percentage of getting married than white women up until 1970. And we had the highest percentage of entrepreneurs. Keep in mind what happens, you have a segregated community, that everything has to be done within. And within that process came this idea of being self-sufficient. So we didn't depend on the government. We didn't ask for the government to come and help us. We had businesses everywhere. I remember as a kid seeing around me, whether it be Baker's Pharmacy or Speed's grocery store or Perkins Service Station. It was a hospital of Black doctors and Black nurses. We had engineers, lawyers, all within. And this great community of business owners created this remarkable middle class. I grew up in a middle class community. So did my cousins in DC and Texas and California. 40% of Black 40% of Black Americans were business owners, and that equated to 50 to 60% of Black Americans across the country being part of the middle class. Now I'm saying this because it's so important to not only understand our history, but understand that the middle class is always the culture that defines our nation. The more robust our middle class is, the more of the American dream we can experience and we can expect and we can envision ourselves. When the middle class is being pushed, is being stressed upon, then we get results we don't want. One of the things that I've also understood growing up in our community is that what made our middle class the great middle class it was because we had so many business owners. Business ownership is what powers middle class. Business ownership is the free market. It's where people have this faith that they can take a risk, they can overcome, they can fail and get back up again. And they have this onus in which if they succeed, they want to put back in their community, make sure the community is growing, make sure they have a good name, and make sure their kids have a much better opportunity as they grow older. That is what business ownership in the middle class comes down to. How do you destroy the middle class? Take away the education, take away the ability of Americans to think, to have critical thinking skills, to have the confidence to go out and take a risk and build a business and overcome those obstacles. Take away the ability to look back, excuse me guys, sorry. Take away the ability to look back and be proud of their own lineage and ancestry, and of course, the lineage of our nation. One of the things that I do know growing up is I was always very, very proud, even though, again, I did not associate with white Americans till I was 16 years old. But I was very, very proud of America because my dad had come back from war. We were taught how to respect the flag, respect families, respect our elders, and to make sure that we were giving our family a good name. So those are the foundations that we kind of built everything upon. What I've seen over the years is you take away or you attack those tenets that made my community great, which made every other community great. Attack the tenets of faith, family, free market, and education. You now get what we see now happening in DC, in New York, Detroit. You see chaos. You see families that have no idea what it is to be families. You have young people that are angry, that just do very mean things because they have no other outlet. We have to realize and get back to the fact that education, if we're going to find a way back to being the great country that we have always had the potential of being, that we represent as we get up every single day, go out and work hard and overcome, we have to make sure that we're educating ourselves and our kids to not only how to think today, but also about the great success we had in the past. So that being said, I want to give that a little bit of a background. And also, I want to say this, I'm going to get a little bit into some things I've done while in Congress and what my focus has been. And I also want to leave some time for Q&A. So can somebody give me an idea of how much time we have? I want to make sure that I can pace myself and leave enough time to get Q&A. But I have some things I wanted to share with you in terms of what I believe we're going to be able to accomplish as we come into this coming year based on the educational priorities we're putting in place. So can somebody give me an idea how much time I have so I can make sure I'm not overrunning that?
Yeah, Representative, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Rick Larson. So feel free to speak right up until 11 o'clock. Due to the way we patched this together, we won't be able to facilitate Q&A. You won't be able to hear. So you are welcome to speak right up to 11.
Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Let's do this. Let's first of all talk a little bit about the things that I have been focused on and the things that I think as a country we need to really lean in hard. We believe as a country in freedom. At the end of the day, that's what it always comes down to. We're free to decide what class we want to take. We're free to decide where we want to live in our country. We're free to decide what career path. I mean, every day we wake up and we make decisions based on our feelings, our goals, our projections, and we're free to go after it. Why is it that we're not free to put our kids in the best school possible, no matter where we live, no matter what our color is, no matter what the zip code is? Why is that the one area that there's no meritocracy? That there's some kind of way we got to this idea that teachers should do it just because they're good people, which they are. By the way, my dad was a college professor for 40 years. My mom was a junior high school teacher. Of the 12 kids, the 12 siblings my mom had, 6 of them were high school teachers. Education was everything. So I know what it is to be in an environment where they're all in. But why should we accept, just because it was put this way 200 years ago, that paying teachers should be based on seniority instead of meritocracy? The most important product we have in our country today is a product of our kids, that they can grow up, feel confident, be visionaries. Matter of fact, feel enough confidence in the way they think that they can accept other ideas and maybe not agree, but because they have so much confidence in the way they think, they're willing to be around people who think differently. The only time that this becomes an issue where people are not willing to accept other ideas or be around other ideas, when they're so insecure on who they are and their thoughts, they know they can't win by articulating their thoughts, so they want to stop you, they want to censure you, they want to pick up a stick and beat you over the head. And that's what we've come to. We're developing a generation of children who cannot think anywhere past their last emotion, and they're working on emotion. We can't allow that to continue to happen. So educational freedom is a conversation we need to lean in real hard and accept, and not be told by the unions, the education unions, that it's just not acceptable. We've listened to these people way too long, and the results are very obvious. By the way, as a caveat, because I've been keeping up with this area for quite a while, I wrote a book, Why I Stand, back a couple years ago. And in it, I had a chance to do a little study in terms of success or the failure of our school system across our country, particularly with Black Americans. I just talked about how successful my community was growing up. My dad, by the way, I need to kind of say this just to bring into today's environment. My dad, when he came back from World War II, was not able to, I ran into a box of letters when he passed away, all these rejection letters of schools that he had tried to get his postgraduate degree, but because of living in Texas where he had Jim Crow, he couldn't do it there. And many colleges across the country also were rejecting him. It was all because of his color. The thing about that generation, and that generation across the board, not just Black Americans, but Italian Americans and Jewish Americans, the idea very simply, you told those folks in that time that they couldn't, they're gonna make sure that they showed you they could. And so my dad continued the process until he got to Ohio State, where he got his PhD in agronomy. His older brother got his PhD in economics. They both were college professors for decades. University of Houston for my uncle, my dad at Florida A&M. And at the same time, they were teaching their kids because they controlled the environment. There was a time in which parents and teachers were very close. They were collaborating. The goal was to make sure that each one of these kids were growing through this process, and each community was respected for the product that they gave out. They wanted to make sure that we as kids could leave that community and go out and compete anywhere. So I was able to leave Tallahassee and go to the University of Miami and get a degree in biology. The goal was marine biology. It was not to play football. Football just happened to be a benefit that came as I found I had talents in that area. But my goal was to get to the University of Miami just so I can go through these particular studies. That was the focus of the 60s. Now, let's bring this up to, and by the way, it's across the country. We had so much success. We had, in the early 1900s, we had high schools in Brooklyn, New York, that were actually with some of the best black high schools, some of the best high schools across the country, because the communities, again, were competing to make sure that we gained that respect. So let's bring this up to 2017. In 2017, Department of Education found out the state of California, entire state of California, 75% of the Black boys in the state of California could not pass standard reading and writing tests. So here we have a state in which 75% of the Black boys cannot read and write. Do you wonder why the gangs are running rampant? Do you wonder why crime is at a higher rate that you can't understand? Do you wonder why people no longer feeling safe? When young people grow up and they have no hope, they're angry, they're being told that they've been pointed out and targeted. That's how you get to the divisiveness, and it all begins again with the lack of education. You come to DC, in the district in DC, they have zero proficiency in math. So here we have, and by the way, both of those areas where you spend the most dollars per student. And we have to figure that out, because if you're spending that kind of money for students and you're not getting results, then that means the money's being wasted. So, to say the least, we have right now a system in which we have the most innovative people in the world. We have parents who care, they want their kids to grow, and yet we are not even in the top 10 in terms of the basic things to make our country work: math and reading, science. We're having to import people from all around the world to do the things that we should be doing here in our country. So I'm saying this to point out again, education is a national security. And for us not to attack this and address it the way we are, we're doing a great disservice, not only for our country, but we're leaving a lot of people hopeless in a country in which they should be totally full of hope and faith and producing and giving to our country versus taking away. So understand this. This is again, we're in a fight. And I want to make it make it in those terms. This is not just by accident. We have people that do not want us to live the American dream, the dream of faith, family, free market education. They do not want our kids to grow up and produce and be productive and be able to think. They like to indoctrinate. And that's what we're finding. I think COVID was a remarkable opportunity for us to see what was happening behind the curtains. And what I've been fighting for decades, for a long, long time, that is that every child should have a choice based on where that parent wants them to go. It could be sports, it could be science, it could be art, it could be whatever it takes that child to really bring the best that child needs. And the parent knows best what that looks like. They should have that choice. And without having that choice, again, we leave people in a position where they're just not able to move forward. So let me do this. I have a couple things that I put forth this year. I'm right now, again, the only committee I knew that I wanted to be part of was education and labor. Now, as we get into majority next year, it's going to be education and workforce. I'm very excited about that because we need to make sure our young people are being trained early. Everyone does not have to go to a 4- or 6-year college. We have people that can come out of high school, given the right credentials, given the right exposure, put into the right areas that really gets their interest and their desires going. And within a couple of years, have not only savings account, but be able to buy homes and across the board and without having a lot of debt. These are the choices that our kids should have. And that's again, why the freedom is so important. So a couple of things that we're able to do. We just had a few things that I think we can all relate to: disaster, the evil of Uvalde. Unfortunately, when those kind of things happen, we get into the weeds of things that right now will take much too long to deal with. The first thing that comes up when you have these kind of disasters, evil acts, is control of Second Amendments. Second Amendment, that should not be our major conversation right now when we're trying to get our kids safe. We can do that within literally months. We can always have the long conversation for those who want to have that conversation about Second Amendments. But for now, let's make sure we drop our children off at school, that they are safe until you pick them up. And we're doing this by what I call the Secure Our Students Act. What we found out is that the American Rescue Plan, of that $1.9 trillion, 93% has not been spent. We have billions of dollars just sitting there that no one knows what to do with because there's money thrown out there without any reason or rhyme to make that happen. My bill was very simply this. It's already appropriated. We don't have to go out and try to find money to do this. Why don't we collect some of that money back, have each district decide exactly how they need it. It should be done at the district level. Some districts might want to have software programs put in place that they can actually, I've had chances to see some of the software, remarkable. Somebody comes in with a gun that's hidden, it sees it, the software picks it up, it locks the doors, it calls 911. That might be one way that we can do it. We also have resource officers. Some countries, some districts feel very comfortable with that. And then of course we have the hard infrastructure. Whatever it takes, every district in this country, this coming semester, should be flooded with money to take care of the specific, and by the way, it has to be evidence-based. So this is a bill that we want to put through. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pass it all the way through, but I hope to make that happen in January. So Secure Our Students Act. There's also something called Recovery Act. Going right back again to that 93% of the American Rescue Plan has not been spent. What we found out this last 2 years is that those children that were harmed the most were the low income and those kids with disabilities. They were just left out there. We find out some kids are not coming back, some will never come back because they didn't have the structure, they didn't have the family, they didn't have the internet access. Well, those parents should have the resources going directly to the parent to give them the choice If they want to buy books, if they want to put them in a tuition for a private institution, for private school, one second. Whatever they think their child needs, they should be able to do it, and they should be able to have those funds coming in, give them the educational freedom to do their thing. I have to say this about Utah. I'm really pleased. Obviously, we can always get better. I'm pleased with the fact that we have such a focus on our children, that we have always looked at these options. I was driving home with my daughter a couple weeks ago. We were talking about her three kids, and she was talking about the different ways that she is going to be dealing with their desires, their ways of learning, the things that make sense for them. One loves to play football. Her one son, she loves to play football. One loves to be, she likes the home setting of being taught at home. The other one needs to have more exposure to other kids. So at the end of the day, every parent knows what's best for their child, and they should be able to figure that out and make those kind of things happen. So the Recovery Act will allow that to happen. I also co-sponsored a Parents' Bill of Rights. What came out of this last 2 years? And now we understand why we're getting kids that can't think anymore. Why we're getting kids to come out of high school and college hating our country, hating their parents' vocation, running the streets. It is amazing what we now see is because of the things that have been taught in the classroom without parents' knowledge. So we believe there should be a Parents' Bill of Rights. That is transparency. We should know what the curriculum looks like. We should know what books our kids read. These are our kids. We should be knowing what's being trained, what's been taught to think, and how to think. And it is not the purview. It's not an institution that owns our children. That's the way the Soviets think. We are a country of freedom, a country of family, and the ones that should control and be part of the conversation along with the teachers and make sure our child is coming through are the parents. So this empowers the parents to, again, know what's going on, to have those choices of opting out or opting in based on what those options might be. I think the biggest part is transparency, and with choice or freedom, education freedom, is that we can let the market work out the way it is. There are going to be some schools that teach things I don't want my kids to be taught, and that's fine. But if I'm able to take the amount of money that's appropriate for my child and take that wherever I want to take it, then the market will show what really works. Because those schools that are not teaching their kids correctly, how to think, how to be proud of who we are, how to add, subtract, if they're not doing that, then of course they would end up losing the funding as time goes on. So I say I have about 8 minutes before we get close to the bewitching hour. Let me just say this. I'm looking at my notes here real quickly. I think we have a remarkable opportunity coming into this coming year. And I say that because whenever there's tough times, whenever there's contrast, we have this ability as a people to come together and have conversations. The strength of America is sure that we have different parties, we have different ways of thinking, but the strength is how we can come together and start communicating when times are tough. And we do it better than any other country in the entire history of mankind. We figure out what we have in common, what the misery points we're trying to overcome. And we say, okay, we can empathize, we can understand, so let's come together and overcome that. I think we're at that point now. The last couple of years in which we're seeing the impact on our children, the amount of business that's gone on under, the freedoms that we've seen to come close to losing, we now can have conversations that will really be very helpful for us because we know what it looks like. So just know that. One last thought on this school educational thing. I've been thinking again for years about the opportunity to have children to have choice, and it's been something I've seen because I've seen how it works out in low income families, how little options they have. You've had a lot of good parents that have been able to do what they need to do so they can sympathize with that. They can understand there's some things going wrong, they need to figure out how to help. But they were able to put, based on their zip code, based on their income, to put their kids in school they wanted to. What we experienced the last 2 years is that every parent had a chance to see exactly what it was not to have choice, not to be able to put their kids in school or find out they're being taught the CRT stuff. And we didn't want that to happen. Because of that, we have a country that's more empathetic together than we've ever been. Parents, no matter whether rich or poor, whether they have options or not, are more empathetic for what it feels like not to have a choice for the most precious things we have in our life, and that's our kids. So we're in a good place. And that being said, I'm feeling very, very positive that we'll come out of this in a very big way. I look forward to serving Utah. Utah is the closest thing that I've come to. I was in New York and Pennsylvania. The reason I have such a love for Utah is exactly the environment I grew up in. The environment of faith, family, free market education. The environment in which I was taught as a young man to love God, country, family, respect women, authority. This is the closest state I've seen to that. And I'm excited about being part of this process of make sure we hold on to our culture, hold on to our legacy, and then make sure that we can actually be a model for those around the country who want to find out how to do it right. So let's see, what are we looking at with time? I think I have 5 more minutes. And I guess if I can just, 1 second here. Okay, I have 3 more minutes. Let me just wrap up with this. I want to thank you guys for everything you've done to hold on to the legacy that you've had, that has attracted people to the state. The last 10 years, the fastest growing state in the union. My 6 kids, my 16 grandkids are here in Utah. We want to be here for the rest of our lives. I want to thank you because it takes hard work. It takes tenacity. It takes making sure that we're doing the right things with our kids to pass that on. And so the fact that we're doing that, we'll continue to be a very fast growing state. My goal as we come into this coming year, just so you know, I'll be part of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, which will allow us to know how to grow our state in a way that's smart, in which we can push it down south, make sure that our rural country has the ability to have the broadband, have the business ownership opportunities that we have up in this part of the country, and that we can make sure our kids can stay here. They can buy their homes and build their businesses and have their jobs. So my goal is make sure that we can continue to grow in a very, very smart way and educate our kids so they're the smartest in the entire union and be an example to the rest of the country how it's done. So I think I'm done. I think I've run out of time. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to do any Q&A. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to shake hands. But just know I'm a proud Utahn, and I can't say how excited I am to be representing our great state at this particular time. I think you guys are clapping for me. I don't hear anything, but I see the actions.
Representative.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now, yes.
Okay, just 2 things before we let you go. First of all, I want to thank you. Clearly, this was not the most physically comfortable way for you to do this. So thank you for participating despite how you're feeling. And second, I have to note, you were clearly a professional athlete. To notice 3 minutes on the clock demonstrates an ability to manage in a way that's unusual. So thank you for that. And we appreciate your time. And to all of you, first, I also need to thank a technical team who pulled off some pretty heroic stuff behind the scenes in a short period of time. So thank you all. Thank you for being here. Again, we all wish we could be in the same room together, but the mission was accomplished because this series is about allowing those who we elect to speak clearly, directly, uninterrupted about something they're passionate about. And that goal was achieved today. So
can I say this one last little point here?
Of course.
I want you guys to just keep in mind what we just accomplished this last hour. It's called innovation. It's people coming together and communicating, figuring out how to solve a situation we had no plans, no one thought about, but that's what we do as a country better than any other country in the history of mankind. So we kind of take it for granted because we do it just automatically, but let's not take it for granted. We need to continue to be innovative, think outside the box, and we can do it better to make sure the rest of our country can benefit from what we do here. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate the opportunity.